But anyways, this one word that we kind of it kind of was thematic for our group is Hanani. Hanani means I'm open.
Mm.
Here I am. Do with me what you will. May your will be done. And so everywhere we went, that was in the mind, Hanani. At the wall,
Yeah.
in the tomb,
Yeah.
in the Galilee, and wherever, Hanani. Show me as I'm here what you want to show me. Speak to me what you want to speak to me.
Yeah.
Reveal to me what you want to reveal to me. And I think that that's such a universal understanding, to just being open
Yeah.
to what he wants to say, to what he wants to bless you with, to how he wants to use you, on and on and on.
It's a challenge because the first creation, man and woman, heard God. Spirit of the Lord was moving on the earth. They encounter His presence, and they still disobeyed. So disobedience is almost telling God, "You don't know what you're doing."
Right. Right. I
Not
won't be God.
not that I don't care what you're doing. It's two different things. It's you don't know what you're doing. I know better than you.
Let me be God.
And we continue that pattern in life, all of us. Especially why we started this ministry rebrand, because of people who have been prodigals, sons and daughters who knew of God and had a basic knowledge of God. We have been there, but we told him that. No, I know better than you. My ways are better than your ways. And just I imagine being in a place like that. You're saying, man, how dumb we have been, especially here that most of us have just the word, and most of us don't read the word.
Yeah.
They just let someone read it to us
Yep.
on Sunday, and we don't open it every day. And
Forgive us, Lord.
so we just tell them, you don't know what you're doing. Every day we keep on telling him. Every day we go this way, and he says go that way. We tell him, you don't know what you're doing. And that's been in my, since I really surrendered my life to God. It's like I was praying. I was going to Lafayette Tuesday. I had a meeting in Lafayette. Wednesday I had a meeting in Lafayette this week. And I'm going through a 90-day challenge back again. I rewind it and restart it again because I have two youth in Fort Wayne that they want. I've been meeting with them, at least one of them, and so it's like, can I study the Bible with you? Well, I'm going through this 90-day. Do you want to go through it with me? It's like, yeah, okay, let me restart it. I'm behind anyways. So I restarted. I'm probably a day or two behind again. But just rereading Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, I'm in Numbers again. I think I went all the way to Joshua, and I went back again in the past 2 months or month and a half. And God gives all these rules and laws and regulations just to prove to us that we really don't know what we're doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows what's best for us, but we keep on we keep on lying to ourselves.
Right.
We keep on lying to ourselves and thinking that no, this is gonna give me the results that I want, and that's not true. I was looking at myself in the mirror the other day and just thinking of these things. It's like, what's the definition of insanity? Keep on doing what you're doing, expecting a different result. Keeping doing what we're doing, expecting a different result is like, so on my drive to Lafayette on Wednesday, I'm listening to because I'm listening to the scripture. I'm not reading it. I'm listening to it. It's 90 days, and I got 1.5 speed. So I'm like, I want to get it done, and you can get some of it, especially if I do it 4 times a year. So I'm listening to the scripture and listening to all of this, and I'm like, God, will you please remove my will? I don't want free will. I'm tired with free will. Will you make me a robot? Would you make me to have your will only? I'm done with my will. I'm like, not questioning, and I'm thanking him. Thank you for free will, but you should have made me with only one will: the will to love you, to respect you, to honor you, to serve you, to live for you, only for you. So that's the stage of where I am in my life. Yeah. It's like I'm done. I'm tired of just pleasing myself, my desires, my wants, my likes, what I need, what I want, what I desire. And just, I'm like, even maybe I'm running out of time. Maybe my last day is tomorrow. God, let me live for you today. Let me do whatever it takes. That thing that I have been intentionally at Chick-fil-A telling the person there, hey, Jesus loves you, and I don't know if you believe in church or not, but here's where I go to church. Yeah. If you want to come in and fellowship with us, it's I've forgotten what it is to tell someone, hey, Christ loves you because I preach on Sundays. Hey. And I've forgotten to just invite people, do the outreach myself. Yeah. Because I want other people to do it for me or with me, but not. I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's that I'm like, so this week is like Wednesday. I've been like, everyone that I encounter, it's like, hey, if I don't have another chance to tell you, and God's putting people, yesterday at the mall with my wife and my daughter and my mother-in-law, there's a young girl that used to visit us in the church, and she recognized us, and so she comes over and it's like, hey, we moved from that church, but we're on this place now. But in the beginning, I was just say hi, bye, and I forget, and then like I get convicted, and it's like, you're not even inviting them to come and fellowship with you again. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but we moved from church. I know we lost contact, and then we go to Chick-fil-A, and I'm the same thing, and it's like, hey, here's a card, an invitation for you and for a friend of yours. Yeah. And I don't know what you're doing on Sundays. I'm for sure you're not working because Chick-fil-A closes on Sundays. So it's like, that need of, we need to speak more and more about him. Yeah. Of what he's done for us and what he's doing through us and in us and with us. Yeah. But we've forgotten because we say, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. I got a message to prepare. I got a class to teach. I got a worship to lead. I have family to feed. So I got to work and there's people walking around us, waiting or hoping that someone will speak to them and just give them a word and say, hey, keep on doing what you're doing. Yeah. Don't give up. And not even inviting them to church, but just loving on them right there where they are. It's like, hey, thank you. Thank you. You didn't have to serve me this meal the way you did as a waitress, but you did. You are so awesome.
Yeah.
You're a creation of God. But we so it's like that's right where I am in my life. It's like take my will away
Hmm.
because if you don't serve me the right water or the right drink, now I'm upset. And
We're-
now it's all about me
Yeah.
and I'm preaching about marriage tomorrow in at church, and it's like grabbing the scripture from Philippians 2. It's like, don't look at someone for, with envy, and don't, you know, don't just it's look at someone so they can please you, but what can you do to do for them? And you must serve them, you must love them. Um, and I believe that the more we die to ourselves and we live for Christ, the more He gives us, in a sense, because He's not a bad father. The more I mean, we've talked about my kids, and it's like I don't care how bad they do, I'm gonna do whatever it takes,
Yeah.
that they know that I am here for them, and no matter how bad they messed up, that I'm gonna be here as a father for them, and I'm gonna love them, and I'm gonna give everything for them, regardless if I agree or disagree with their lifestyle or whatever they're doing. And then I think, well, is that how you would see me?
Mm. Yeah.
That no matter what I do, how bad I messed up. This is why we started this prodigal son and daughter ministry rebrand, because we have been changed, and we're still daily being changed and daily being transformed, and one trip 11 days in Israel changes a lot of your perspectives and your views
Complete
of how you see
transformation.
church.
Mm. Complete transformation.
And just a little bit of reading the Bible again and again tells you, hey man, stop living for yourself. And it's like, okay, God, I want to do your will, not mine.
Yeah.
And I want you to share a little bit, and we'll share a little bit about where I am with the church and what God's doing here. But you know, even times at your dad's life celebration for me was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is awesome.
That's my one regret of the trip, man. I wasn't able to make it to that.
This is awesome how
That's okay.
how you hear and you see men of God
Yeah.
walk this path, not perfect, but just the stories that we heard, and you know here was for me the biggest challenge. It's like I gotta step up my game with Christ so I can see Him one day.
Mm.
And that's I think that's the joy or the hope for a Christian,
Yeah.
that we live faithfully to God, but and so we can see God and we can see those loved ones again.
Yeah.
So, but share with us how you doing, how you feeling, how's I know it's
I don't think
can't
I've
even understand what you're going through. I
don't
can't say I understand you because I don't.
sure.
I'm, we're just here for you, with you.
Yeah. I don't. I'll share context and the story because I don't think I've shared. I know I've shared that my dad passed away 2 years ago, but mom had always wanted. So we've always done vacation Bible schools in Costa Rica, and that's been always something that God has put on my mom's heart. And it all started in the town she grew up. She'd do it there once a year. And that was my summer vacation. It was vacation down to Costa Rica / mission trip, and I'd be stuck in this little
Every
town.
every year.
Yeah,
every summer?
since yeah. I've been here 26 years, something like that, and I think out of those 26, I now have not gone 3 years, 4 years.
Wow.
I'm hoping that I still go this year. Really want to see my family. But so that was like summer. Be down in Costa Rica, in what was mostly a very boring town. Just up in the country, farm, sugarcane, macadamia fields, and coffee. So nothing is going on after like dark. Like once 7 hits and it's starting to get, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, it was fun because my cousins were there. But like as like I started into the teenage years, they're either in school. So whereas like in over there elementary school, it's only like half days. So you either went in the morning and then you had the afternoon after off, or it flipped the next day. You went into the afternoon. So I would at least have most of the day I would be with my cousin, except for a few hours. So we'd play, we'd have fun. But then when they got older, they either dropped out of school and they're working, or they moved away. So it got a little more boring. Hanging out with my grandma and my aunt was cool and everything, but not as fun. But the VBS was kind of a big part of it, prepping for it, actually doing it. So that's what was my vacations for many, many years, until probably around 2021. I would help my mom for a week, and then I would take an extra week off and go explore Costa Rica. So, but over the last 5 years, 10 years, Mom started doing it twice a year. We would use this farm property that's not ours, but we get to use it. And we use this giant stable that was used. Initially, this farm was cattle farm. It was for bulls that were used for bull riding. So this is what this stable is, but no longer being used for that because it got purchased for ministry. So we're in the stable, giant stable, and kids' classes going, and it's very like everything is open. So it's not like, oh, kids are in this room and it's padded carpet and it's nice. No, like we're literally
In the stable.
stables. But it was always a blast. God taught me so much through that. Just learning to be grateful for what I have, and seeing the gratitude in kids, and they had much less the joy and the peace that they had, and they had much less than I did. And it just I think it happens on every mission trip. Like any mission trip I've been on, like I've received more than I ever give to these people. Yeah, to people, not these people, to people.
What's the? I didn't mean to cut you off, but what's the religious culture in Costa Rica? Like, were you
Catholic,
a minority?
Protestant,
Catholic,
Catholic Protestant. So the town is Catholic.
Okay.
So there's resistance at times from the priest. You know, there's been times where the priest has said you can't. If you go to this vacation Bible school, I don't know what the consequence is, but there's some consequence, or it was discouraged. There's been, you know, a little more aggressive, you know, I don't want to call altercations, but more friction in certain times, where they wouldn't let us, because they had connections with a facility that we use. They told the people, hey, you come to our church, do not let them use it. Yep. So now we're out of a building that we're planning to use next week, and we're scrambling to, you know, and all we're just trying to just share the gospel and bless people, you know. So this is something that years my mom has been doing, and Dad never really wanted to build in that town because there's nothing much there. Like, if it wasn't for my family, I'm not going there. But this year, it's 2019, I think, right around there. Dad tells my mom, I'll go down and I'll start the building project that you want. It's a little like a small warehouse, 2-story kind of setup. It's not a house. It's just a place where we can send goods, clothing, toys, school supplies, because we were sending them down to Costa Rica, but they're being stored at the farmhouse, and this farmhouse, like, water's getting in, there's bugs getting in, animals
Yeah.
getting, so like stuff's
Yeah.
getting destroyed.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. And Dad was like, I'll take up your dream that you want, and I'll go down and start preparing. So the first 6 months of the year, Dad is first. So Dad comes in January around there. Mom's in Costa Rica. Dad has a heart attack. I'm the only one here with with my sister. So I was kind of the person that was there with Dad throughout that, and it was a special time. Like I remember sitting there, and the doctor's talking to Dad, just going over the discharge information, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, this could have been my dad's last day. This could be my last day.
Mm.
And out of that experience, God just reminds me, like, hey, one day at a time, live one day at a time. And every time I shared with my dad after that, it was intentional. Like, I wanted to make sure I was valuing, and it wasn't just my dad, but my mom too, And so that happened. Dad leaves around February. Doctor's like, you're fine if you want to travel. You just had a minor heart attack. I think you're good. And, after a month, he gets cleared. Dad goes down to Costa Rica, starts the paperwork. It's a long process. Like, you go to the office. They tell you, oh, no, you have to go to this office and get this paperwork first. Then you get to that office. They're like, no, we don't do that here. And then it's just like, and then it's like, oh, but we need more money, right? They know we're live here. So, like, there's a little bit of, I don't want to say it's a little bit of like, this is how long it takes, but if you slip us a little something, we might be able to get it, and that kind of stuff. And my parents wanted to do it right, so it was a process, right? And sometimes they're dragging their feet. So 4 months in, Dad's down there, just headache after headache. Finally get the everything approved. Dad comes back for a month to see us, to see Luca. Lauren's pregnant. And they're about to travel. Mom and Dad leave back. I remember it was a Sunday. We went to a birthday party, and this is like one of the last vivid images that I have of my dad. There's a piñata at this birthday party, and you see all these little kids, and then you see this old bald dude with his grandson in the pile with kids getting candy. My dad and Luca, he grabs Luca and he gets in the piñata pile. And that day we go home, and I remember I told Dad, I love you, bye. And then again, Luca did something we did. I said bye to my dad 3 times that day.
Mm.
Hug, kiss, I love you, embrace. 3 times, and we leave. Mom and Dad leave to Costa Rica the next day. And because now the project is actually starting, like, they're breaking ground. There's someone that's doing the construction job. There's a team, yada yada. Week later, Mom comes back, and a day or so after Mom comes back, Dad starts getting sick. But he's fine. He's just got like a bad cold, bad flu kind of thing. And that Thursday, Mom calls me. She's like, Javier, I need to get back to Costa Rica. Your dad needs me. I'm like, Mom, I just talked to Dad like last night. He just seems sick, but I think he's fine. She's like, no, give me a ticket. I was like, okay. So I get her a ticket for Saturday. And Mom leaves Saturday morning, and Dad's getting a little worse. And that Saturday, I get a call from my aunt. She's all frantic and stressed. She's like, Javier, they're taking your dad to the hospital. They have to put him on oxygen. Da 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 da. I was like, okay. And Mom's on a plane, and she has no idea. She's about to land, and Dad's gonna be in a hospital. And this is in the middle of COVID. So, Mom's already worried on this, and so she lands there. I leave her a message. I think I was able to contact her and just let her know, hey, Dad's in the hospital. And so Mom's trying to get a hold of Dad to see where he's at. He gets transferred to a certain hospital. He ends up coming positive, so they have to transfer him to another hospital where they have all the COVID patients. And Dad was like, hey, I need food. They haven't fed me because everything that's going on. Dad was slightly diabetic, and so he needed food. So Mom's trying to get him food in an iPhone charger, because in the transfer he doesn't get it. So, but Mom's not going to be able to see him. Mom gets to the hospital that they're transferring Dad out of, and as she gets there, they're actually transferring Dad at the same time she gets there. So like she's able to see my dad at a distance. Just the timing was like mom had just flown in 3 hours before. She has to drive about 2 hours to this hospital. So like the timing was God's timing. Like she had no control when they moved him. So she walks in, they're like walking him out, and she's like, "Hey, can I talk to my husband?" They're like, "Yeah, but you can't get close." All this stuff. And so mom and dad have just a few minutes there. Mom gets to see dad. She prays for him at a distance, reads the Bible to him, and he gets some food and charger, and that was Saturday. Sunday, doctor's like, hey, he's maybe getting a little better. That's like Saturday night or Sunday, one of those 2 days. But then like Sunday night, another doctor calls and like, hey, your husband's, he's not getting any better. Like just a indifferent attitude, a little bit of a harsh attitude. Dad had not gotten vaccinated, so there was definitely some pushback from the doctors, like, you didn't help yourself, so why should we help you, kind of attitude. So that's happening, and we're like, I can't be there. I can't. My mom's in Costa Rica. I can't even be there for her. My dad's in Costa Rica. I can't even be there. Like, lots going on, and Lauren's pregnant. And that Monday night, I shared this. That Monday night, Dad calls us, and sorry, is that Tuesday night? Tuesday night, Dad calls us. So yeah, the Monday night's when the doctor's like, "Hey, your husband's not doing great. I don't think we can do anything for him." Kind of attitude. And Tuesday night, Dad calls, and we're on a group call, and Dad said, "Hey, the doctors are telling me I don't have much time left, so I just want to call you guys and talk to you guys." And I remember reading the passage in Ezekiel 37, Valley of Dry Bones, in Psalm 33. And Psalm 33 talks about how a king can have soldiers and horses, but if God isn't with him, all that strength, isn't going to help you. All that protection isn't going to protect you. It is God who protects us. Yep. So I read that, and I always have to read this word for word, because I think details are specific, and it's in Spanish, but I'll translate it. But I read that to my dad, those two passages, and my dad's response was, "I have peace. You guys have peace. Keep trusting in God. Keep declaring that word. I love you guys." Wow. And it stuck with me. Like, I didn't write it down in a moment. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. It stuck with me. And that response, I was like, whoa, and then, but, we're like, Dad, we're going to keep praying. We're trusting God's going to heal you, people at the church are praying. Other people at other churches are praying. Like, not a lot of people knew that Dad was in the hospital, and that was kind of Mom's decision to, but some people did. And Wednesday, I don't know, 1:30, 2 in the morning, Lauren wakes me up. She's like, "Hey, your mom's been trying to call." Like, I hadn't heard my phone. Lauren heard her phone. She hands it to me. Mom's like, "Hey, the doctor's calling me. Your dad passed away." And, I just remember sitting on the edge of my bed, and it was just that, is this real life? Almost.
My dreaming.
Yeah, just like numb feeling. Just like it didn't hit. Like, I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything. It was just like numb. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go find my sister. Like, I just went into, what do I need to do mode.
That mode. Yeah.
Like, okay, I gotta take care of my sister next, and
this older sister or younger?
Younger sister,
okay.
8 years younger.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to call her and tell her like, this is gonna be really hard on my sis. Like, it's all hard on us, but just the bond my sister and my dad had. Like, so I drive to Plainfield, and as I'm driving there, so I'm going from Shelbyville to Plainfield.
Did you post it on Facebook? Was it your mom?
No one.
Huh?
No one. Hold on, no one. I'll tell you in a second. No one did. I don't know how it got out.
Yeah.
But like, we hadn't. It had to be. The only thing I can remember is like maybe someone in Costa Rica found out,
Yeah.
and someone here found out because of that post. But no one here locally knew, or no one in the States knew. And so I'm driving out there. I get to my sister's apartment, and I call her. I was like, "Hey, can you let me in?" And she's like, "Javier, where are you?" I was like, "I'm in Plainfield." She's like, "I don't live in Plainfield anymore." I was like, "Oh gosh." I was like, "Oh crap!" So she had moved, and I just didn't know. Like, it had just happened, and she hadn't told me. And so at this point, it's 3-4 in the morning.
Oh my
Wow.
She knows why I'm supposedly at her. Except she
Nothing good happens that early in the morning, you know.
she had a friend there, and so she wasn't by herself. So you know, I have to tell her, and you know, she's obviously heartbroken, and we had been having prayer at our church at 5 a.m. starting that Sunday, just church coming together and praying for Dad. And there's 5-6 people that were showing up, and so that Wednesday got called off. But I was like, I'm still gonna go. So I'm in Plainfield, and I'm driving. I basically take Washington all the 70, and then Washington all the way through downtown into the east side. And I was in my my little Ford truck that was Dad's, the Ford Ranger. And I remember just as I was driving through, I was just remember declaring and shouting, "Dry bones come back to life." Like that was just that Ezekiel 37 was stuck in my head from the night before. And as I look back, I don't know, as I was prophesying that, maybe it had nothing to do with my dad. You know, so I was prophesying that from east to west. Sorry, from west to east. Was I prophesying that over lives? And as I'm 2 years after this, I still don't know what that was about. But I just remember that, and I remember getting a call from Larry. Actually, I called one person before that, and that was the first person I told here, a good friend of my dad, Dr. Mike Elmore. And because I had to ask him something medical that Mom wanted, or I had called him the night before and said, "Hey, Mom wanted me to check with them if there's anything that we could tell the doctors, hey, from your area, of how you guys are dealing with it here, can there help them there?" He didn't answer, so he calls me next day like at 7, and that's the first person I talked to other than my wife and my mom and my sister. And so I just remember, prophesying that. I'm just yelling it, like I'm just shouting, just like tears, crying, just like believing, God, you will bring dry bones back to life. Like you can bring back my dad. But as I'm prophesying, I'm like declaring this. I think back, was that for another purpose? Was I believing for dry bones to come back to life? And I've seen people come back to church. I've seen people tell me, "Yo, I started reading the Bible again because of what happened to your dad." Like, you know, and so that happened. I don't know what that was, but it happened. And then I, driving back home, I went to church and I just prayed just by myself. My dad had passed away, but I just wanted to show up still and say God and just talk to God. And driving home, Ralph, who was at the memorial, he calls me and he's just like a little kid, just bawling. "I loved your dad. I can't believe this." And then I just remember going home and just sitting. I sat so much that just outside, kids were still sleeping, and just thinking. And then, I don't know, around 9 or 10, my phone just starts blowing up text calls. And one person out there, I was like, how do people even find out? Like, I don't know. No one's like, we're 6-8 hours post. I found out. It's 10 in the morning, 9. The only people I told was my job. Like, "Hey, my dad just passed away. I'm not coming in." But I think it was someone in Costa Rica posted something.
Yeah,
And then it showed up on my dad's Facebook page.
Yeah,
And I think that's what kind of like, but I had like just people calling me and like crying.
yeah,
like,
I didn't. I thought it was a fake. You know, I'm like, I couldn't believe it.
yeah,
I texted you. It's like, hey, is this real?
yeah,
And then we talked,
yeah,
and and it was like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. And
we couldn't believe it.
I had a guy show up to my house. Barely, he had been to my house like once before, like 4 years ago. And he's like, I went to your parents' house. No one was there. I kept knocking. No one would answer. So I had to drive here because he didn't have my phone number. He drove to my house. Like, I see this van just pulling down my driveway. I'm like, what is going on? And then I recognize who it is. He's like, please tell me it's not true. And I
Yeah,
just get calls from people like just crying as if like their own dad just died. You know, like grown men just, Javier, please tell me this is like just in like desperation. Tell me, get me out of this. Like, tell me
yeah,
this is not true.
Right.
And so I'm just, and in that process, people are sharing with me, you know, what dad meant to them. And this notebook is a little bit of notes about like my kids being born and dad in those days. And then I wrote, you know, what people would share about that. And then as I wrote, also like what dad said that night. And so that was kind of how it happened. It was sudden. One of the reasons dad went back to Costa Rica so soon is because during the 4 months that he was there trying to prep things paperwork wise and get everything cleared, the plans, the building and everything and the legal stuff, he was working with a few drug addicts, or he was just creating a relationship with some of these a couple of drug addicts in that town. And in those 4 months, one of them said, yes, I'll go to rehab. And dad was able to get him there. The church helped. He called some friends. Hey, I've got this guy. This is how much it costs for him to go to the program. Da 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 da. But there's still one guy that was like in limbo when dad left, and he wanted to come see us, but he also, hey, I have to get back. You know, he's this close from going back to rehab, and I don't want to lose that momentum. Like, God's been working in his life, and I want to be there for him. And so that you know, that was dad's heart. Like, dad's heart initially was to do something that mom had always wanted to get done for the kingdom, but also like while he's there, he didn't need a pulpit to share the gospel, right? And so like he really wanted to get back. And then some young people that my age or a little younger that I had seen through the VBS, and as we were both growing, I would see them, and so there's one guy that also had just strayed away, and God was using dad to connect with him, and he was starting going back to church, and now he's in church, participating, but it was all out of this process of being down there. But yeah, on that Wednesday, I'm just sitting there. That Thursday, I still haven't left my house. It's just like, okay, this is real, and you know, what next? I'm trying to figure out if I fly down to Costa Rica. My mom ended up getting sick too, so even if I go down, the rules were so strict. I couldn't even see my mom, couldn't even be in the same house as her. All this stuff that I was like, Mom, I don't care. Like, if I get sick, I get sick. It's fine. Like, I need to be there. She's like, no, you need to stay. And I'm like in conflict because also my wife is pregnant. Like, the two most important women in my life, my mom for 30 some years, and then my wife for the last 15 years, right? And just a struggle, and I'm like torn. I'm like, some people are like, you need to go, like, you know, and then and I was like, and so I just prayed, and I was like, I need to stay here. And it was hard, but I later someone called me. She's like, Javier, God wants you to know that you chose the right thing, and that was really comforting because it was hard to.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I remember that Friday. There's so many emotions. I'm my mom's confidant, and so I'm having to deal with so much that comes after death with my mom that she's just like emotionally vomiting out, and I'm the one listening. And I remember that Thursday, I'm like listening to my mom, and there's so much with marriage. There's ups and downs, pain, good times, bad times, and all this is just kind of coming out. My mom, and I was like, God, please help me right now, because I have to take my shoes off of being a son, and I just have to be a friend right now. Because if I listen to this as a son, I'm gonna go off on my mom. I'm gonna get hurt by the things my mom is expressing. She nothing bad, but just things of past and that are coming out.
Sure.
It's a emotional time. Like,
Yeah, her perspective is different. She lost a husband.
Yeah, and that's and she's like expressing like, why this, why that, why didn't your dad do this, why did this happen? You know, going back to this and 30 years before, da 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 da. And I'm just like, God, help me right now. Help me to be loving. Help me to be And then there's just my own process. And every time I saw Luca, I just start bawling, because like Luca was Dad's favorite person, and Dad's favorite person was Luca's favorite person was Dad. You know, vice versa. That bond, and just every time I like hug, I'm just like break down crying. So I'm going through this, and like, did they treat my dad properly? The doctor wasn't expressing any compassion, care. It's just very indifferent, like he was just another number, and just another death. You're just indifferent. And so I'm like, did they kill my dad? Did they not treat him or take care of him right? And I'm going through all this, and I remember that Friday, I'm like at the pinnacle of like just anger, like in my head. I'm like, I'm going down to Costa Rica. I'm gonna use all my connections to find out who the doctor was and the nurses, and I'm gonna start a campaign, try to get this on the news. Like, I'm just like, I'm gonna destroy them. You know, I don't want to kill them, but I'm gonna destroy their career. Like, this is just like anger brewing. And I just remember God just touching my heart, because this isn't out of my own nature. It's only God's work. But God just nudging me to just forgive. In that moment, I said, okay, God, I choose to forgive right now. If they didn't take care of my dad, if they didn't do what's right for him, I forgive them. You know, how can I not forgive someone and accept God's forgiveness? That God just reminds me of often. You say, I love you. You believe that I love you and I forgive you, but you can't forgive someone. And now I'm having to put this of like, did somebody mistreat my dad?
Yeah.
To the point where he passes. Had someone done better for him, could he still be here? And I remember that day I said, God, I'll let go of this. And I don't know doctor's name, but I said, every doctor, every nurse, if they did or didn't, if they didn't take care of him, I forgive them. And I let it go. And even throughout all this time of like struggling, I remember just the peace and the joy. And it sounded so cliche, as people would call me, but there was just this stillness.
Yeah.
Yes, there are emotions, and there was that moment of just like anger. But for the majority, especially at that moment where I said, God, I give this up and I forgive them. I forgive them. There's such a peace and joy through this process. Still miss my dad, right? Like I cry less. But there's some moments when I pull up to my driveway, and that's often a point that hits me, because I just remember seeing my dad's Jeep pull up and just seeing the Jeep from my front window, and then Luca getting really excited. So as I pull up to my driveway, like I remember that. But that happened, and Dad got sick the week they broke ground. Like, they started the construction that week. Wow. Dad got sick, and a week later, Dad passes. And then the next 3 months are just hard, in that Mom is having to go through this process by herself. Yep. I can't be there. She's also having to handle this construction project. Has no construction management experience, right? Things are not going perfectly. They're trying to steal from us, charge us more, and not install the stuff that we paid for. The construction manager leaves, so now it's back to nothing and right. And so, and my mom is like, oh gosh, my husband came for this, and now it's not even happening. He died as a consequence of being here, kind of thoughts.
Yeah.
And so it was a long process trying to handle that, help my mom, church here, keep things going. It was hard, and finally mom gets back to the States sometime in November, December, and it's kind of like restart from zero, because now she has to go through the process of mourning in her regular life.
Right.
Like coming home, my dad's not there.
It's different.
All
Yeah.
the clothes, everything, dad, right? Like,
Yep.
and like we have kind of moved a little bit forward because we've been in a regular day to day, and we've gone through the process. And mom's like kind of starting back here, so there's that challenge, like being compassionate, loving, like. But I'm on step 5, and mom's on step 1 again. Like, really, we have to go right. And I understand her. I'm trying to learn. God's teaching me compassion and patience. So that was a lot of story. But we end up doing something small scale at the church. But it's COVID, and like there's still so much stuff. Mom's construction. So we go 2 years without doing anything official. Praise God, the construction project got completed 4 or 5 months ago, officially done. There's things that need to be done inside, but it's completed. And it's a blessing to see that. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I've seen pictures of it. But
Yeah.
it's done. It is completed. And the heart is just to bless people, right? So now it's done. Like, and mom's, I think this was still like something on mom's heart, and still on my heart, to do something more official. And that's when mom reaches out to Eastern Star, and they said, yes, we'll do it. And how about these dates? And so
Nice.
we ended up having a memorial service, and it was weird to have a memorial service 2 years after my dad's passing. Like, I was telling someone, was like, hey, I'm going to be busy on Friday. We're having a celebration of life for my dad. And I'm just like saying it very nonchalant, maybe
They think
relaxed.
he just died.
And they're like, oh my gosh, like this was at work. Like one of
This just happened?
this is one of my project managers. And she's like, oh my gosh, no, please, like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm like, no, it's okay. It happened 2 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
but like, she's like, oh, but still, like, very understanding. I had a situation that happened that day with a patient. But it was weird to have it 2 years later. But it was also special. Honor is something that like has been an evolving topic that I'm learning about and understanding ever since my dad passed away. Like, like the honor your father and mother became more important when my dad passed away. Of like, how do I keep honoring my dad in his legacy?
Yeah.
But how do I honor my mom now? Because that's been a dynamic that's been hard.
Mhm.
As a pastor, now she's, before it was dad and mom leading the church. Mom took over as lead pastor. Dad was doing missions. But he was still in the picture. So like conversations were still, mom led them, but dad would come in and there was a different dynamic. And now it's just mom and it's just mom leading with some, people on the board. But now like there's more friction because like mom and I are similar in certain ways. So like that's been difficult to like, oh gosh, like with dad here, it was different. Like I could be heard, like things were understood a certain way, but now with mom. And so that was like challenge. And I was like, God, how do I honor my mom? Dynamics are harder now. It was easier to honor her before when dad was around because he had a way of helping things, and now he's not here. And so that's honor has been something I'm trying to learn about. And so this memorial was like, I don't think I've honored my dad. Like this celebration of life was an important aspect of honoring my dad. It was a blessing. It was a little bit of a weight. I met with my mom and my sister, and we talked about what they wanted and what wanted to be done. And I basically took the rest of the workload. My sister helped me with a little bit of some of it. But once it was done, I was like, oh, like that whole week, there's like, man, it was a weight. I wanted to do it, but it was also like a weight. But it was special to see people that I hadn't seen in a long time, especially to hear stories of people sharing about dad. And one guy came up to me. He's like, hey, I went on a mission trip with your dad, and it changed my life. I've started a nonprofit missionary ministry because of that one trip.
Mm.
That trip with your dad changed my life. And the video that
Mm.
she shows me is this guy. He's in the passenger front seat. Pastor Orlando is driving. In the back seat is Adrian, Pastor Orlando's son, with special needs, and like music is going like Latin music is like playing in the car, and they're just being silly. And then he pans to my dad. My dad's like wearing 2 glasses. He's looking like a goof, like he's on purpose just being silly. And they're like just dancing. And he's like, this mission trip changed my life. And the video is like of like grown men just being silly.
Yeah.
But that was dad. Like he was joyful, intentional in preaching the gospel, but just funny and goofy. And so just listening, and then it's just like, and then him telling me, I want you to go. I want you to be part of this. I want you to take me down to Costa Rica. I want to do a mission trip down there. And then one of the words I received after was from Dee Dee. She helped Dad when Dad worked at Eastern Star. She said, carry the mantle. As you were leading worship, God kept on telling me, carry the mantle. To tell you, carry the mantle, carry the mantle. And I still don't know what that fully means.
Mm-hmm.
My mind went to Elisha and Elijah,
Mm-hmm.
throwing the mantle on him.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to figure that out. But Dee Dee tells me that. And then next I'm talking to, I just forgot his name, about wanting me to go to mission trips on him. And how that, well, I just heard carry the mantle, mission work, and what does that look like moving forward? Work is still an evolving thing, and ministry opportunities are coming up. But crazy thing I've seen. Oh, but my family came. My aunt and 2 cousins came. My dad's best friend came, Pastor Orlando. And that Friday and Saturday they were with us, and I felt like a little kid. I haven't been around my family like that in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So just to be with family, I felt like it was 2004 Christmas. And I was like, as a foreigner, like I didn't realize this, but I was like, it was a weird feeling. I was like, what is this feeling? Oh, this is the feeling of being around family and
Yeah.
having family close by. Because like here, it's only been, my parents are essentially missionaries here.
Yeah.
You always think of missionaries leaving the U.S. and going to another country.
They're missionaries here.
My parents are missionaries from Costa Rica that came to the U.S.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I guess this is one of the, I don't want to call it negative, but this is a consequence of being a missionary in a foreign country.
Yeah.
You don't have your family, but it was special, and out of that, like a desire to honor my dad's family by being with him. Like now we're talking about going down to Thanksgiving, and that's another aspect of honor. I'm like, hey, they're still my family. But I've kind of not connected with them, and I need to. But it was special. My best friend Tao and his family came, and they stayed with us a whole week. So kind of have a little staycation the week after that, and it was just a blessing to be around family and celebrate my dad's life. And there's been things that have happened since that point. God's opened doors. There's been blessings that have arrived to my hand. That this past Sunday, my friend and his family left on Saturday. On Sunday, I received an envelope from someone. Lauren actually says, hey, such and such family gave us this envelope. I was like, oh, what's it about? And they said they just wanted to bless us. I opened the envelope. The money that was in the envelope was the money that we used during my friend's stay for our staycation. Like, it was, like, so somebody paid for our staycation
Amen.
with our friends. That happened. A couple doors have opened since that. And I see, I think what I'm seeing is honor. There's a blessing in honoring. And almost, I don't know if this is right, but I almost feel like there's certain blessings that were on hold because I hadn't honored my father's life, hadn't done that formal aspect of honoring him. And it's like, you've honored? Okay. This has been waiting for you. And that's not, I'm not preaching Bible there. I think I'm trying to figure out if that's that. I do believe there's blessing and honor. We've talked about that. But that's kind of what I think I've been learning here lately.